hey, real quick, if you're watching this, you probably have relationships. We all do. And sometimes we want those relationships to go deeper. We want more closeness. We want to have very rich community. And that's the cry of our hearts, is to be really close and connected and do real life with the people that are in our lives. And sometimes that involves being vulnerable, sharing things that are terrifying to share, sharing things that are mistakes in your lives, sharing about really hard moments, difficult emotions to talk about. And there is a time and place for that, and there's a time and place not to share that. And so we want to have a whole discussion on when are the appropriate times and places and people to be vulnerable with. I think it is a highly nuanced topic, and so we want to cover it today. Hopefully it benefits you. I know we've had an extensive journey of walking this out in our own lives and are still learning, but I hope this conversation benefits you.
Hello.
Yo.
It's going to be a short one today because we are running out of time with camera
really
problems.
Want to work out.
Yeah,
I just want to work out. I want to pump some iron.
And I'm going to go snuggle with my babe after this. So hopefully it's a shorty but a goodie. Today we wanted to talk about vulnerability in relationships and the nuances of that. I know what we've seen a lot of in our own lives is like once we started unpacking all of the layers that are inside of us, all of the pain, the narratives we created about life and relationships based on our experiences, you have so much more to talk about and to process. And it can be easy to get introspective and kind of navel gaze and to start analyzing things. And we've done this in our own lives a ton. And I've watched this happen with a lot of people that have been in the therapy, counseling, and coaching world who've like received a lot of help, where now you're getting healed. And so you have more emotional capacity for relationship. You have a greater ability to create intimacy in relationships.
Yeah.
It's the beautiful
Things
part
don't
about
feel as high stakes anymore.
Yeah.
You can sit with somebody and not take on their emotions.
Yeah. And it's the beautiful part of healing past pain is now you have the capacity to risk again and to cultivate deep, intimate, connected relationships.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the goal. But what I have seen a lot of people do, and including myself, is sometimes we don't know when and where and who to bring our vulnerability to. And other people perceive, our vulnerability as a lot of different things because they have their own triggers, judgments, narratives from their pain and from their lives. And so it can get sticky and messy. And we aren't giving you the answers in this podcast because we definitely don't have them, but we really wanted to just like unpack it and talk about it with you guys today.
First, what is vulnerability and what is vulnerability not?
Vulnerability is I'm going to let you see and affect my inner world. I'm going to share with you the areas where I have pain and where I am still in process, and I'm letting you in and I'm making myself affectable by you. Like transparency is you can look through the glass, but you can't touch.
Can you be too vulnerable?
In the wrong relationships, yes.
Right. So you can't be too vulnerable with God. Can't
be too vulnerable with God. And I think there are certain people that have the capacity to carry someone else's vulnerability. Yeah. And it's like a hard
safety and
but it's hard to figure out who are the safe people that can handle my vulnerability, that won't draw judgments or conclusions about me, that won't project their own past pain, and won't react to my vulnerability.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say what vulnerability isn't. It's not name calling. It's not, for 10 years, I've just realized I don't like you. And, it's like, that's not vulnerability. Vulnerability is not talking about someone else. It's not sharing your conclusions and narratives about the way a person is. It's not, an opportunity to just go, cool, I'm going to share 10 years worth of narratives about you and conclusions that I've drawn about you. Vulnerability is you scraping to take full ownership over your feelings that you have, the things that you're dealing with. It's like true vulnerability is like, is that humility that God's grace draws near to. People that had an acute awareness of their brokenheartedness it says that Jesus drew near to the brokenhearted. That's because they were extremely vulnerable with him. You know, we see people in their most traumatic elements, in their biggest tragedies, they're bringing it to his feet. We're seeing the woman that, you know, poured the priceless oil on his feet and washed his feet with her hair. You know, that's vulnerable in front of tons and tons of people. Who knows what they're going to think about it? You have the woman caught in adultery. She was thrown into vulnerability, but it was so safe. Why? Because he is the person and embodiment of love. And I think ultimately, like when I think about vulnerability is attracted to secure and safe, unconditional love. Mm-hmm. I would say it's attracted to it. We feel in ourselves this safe landing pad. Oh, I can finally share that thing because I fully believe in my heart of hearts, this person's not going to judge me as disgusting, as shameful, as not enough. What's my worst fear? That I'm going to be unlovable, that I'm going to be not enough. That is what's causing us to shrink back our vulnerability, is those protectors, is those belief systems we have about other people, about God, and it causes us to shrink down. I think that's a problem in our communities. You know, and I think the biggest problem that I see in the church is like, where are there safe landing pads for people to bring their vulnerability to the table? Yeah. You know, if I go into a church and they have a core value in theology that people are inherently sinful, you're just bad, and you're going to deal with that your whole life. Is that sin nature? Well, that theology is going to cause you to see that in other people and call that out in other people. And it's going to cause you to try and control that in other people. And so when somebody shares something vulnerably and there's elements of a sin nature, you know, I'm giving quotations if you're listening to this, then there's going to be that thing in you that all of a sudden is no longer safe for that person's vulnerability, when love would have seen it and been like, you're much better than this. Yeah. I see you as this. I don't see you as your behavior. Yeah. And so I think there are practices that we could probably talk about too, to be able to create an environment of vulnerability around you, if that's something you're wanting to cultivate. Yeah.
I think the first thing that comes to mind with that is, you know, creating a space where you're viewing people through the eyes of compassion. Like, for you to be a safe space for someone's vulnerability, it's like, how can I hold space for you to be in pain right now without drawing a conclusion about who you are based off of your expression of pain in this moment? You know, I see a lot of people reacting to someone sharing something vulnerably, and I think it can create a lot of stickiness in relationship where we're like testing like layers of vulnerability. Like, how much vulnerability from me can you handle? Will you judge me? Will you think that I'm too much? Is this too much feeling or emotion for you? Are you avoidant of processing through things and you just want to have a good time, so you can't handle whenever I share pain? Like, it can get so sticky in relationships. And one really good boundary that you can have for yourself is to have like a counselor or a coach or a mother or father type figure that you can like just vent to. Yeah. Like someone, I love the counseling setting or the coaching setting, because you are literally paying that person to create a space for you to just hear you unpack your stuff. Yeah. And hopefully that person is a safe enough person. Hopefully they have been trained well enough and have enough understanding of how human emotions work to be like, hey, I see this pain and this mess. This isn't who you are. Yeah. You're in mess right now. You need safety. You need to be heard. You need to be loved. You need to be validated. Maybe you need to be called higher and called out of your blame, but I'm going to empower you to do that in my time with you. Yeah. So that's definitely a great context to always be able to bring your vulnerability to. Because even if you don't have people that are safe enough in your life to bring vulnerability to, you do need to have someone. Yeah. And I think it's beautiful when that someone is God, but I think having a God with skin on in a moment, you know, having someone that you're like, I mean, for years, I had such a deep, intimate relationship with God where he was my person. And my subconscious belief was that God is safe and no one else is. And though there is some truth to that, like I could land there and say that that's true, because no one is God and no one is perfectly unconditionally loving. but I will be living in a self-protected state. I will be living in independence. I will be living in self-sufficiency if I'm never practicing opening my heart to the people around me.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to experience intimacy in my relationships if I don't risk my vulnerability. Because you're also saying, I'm never going to risk getting hurt. I'm never going to risk rejection. I'm never going to risk any of the ramifications of what bringing vulnerability could lead to in a relationship.
Yeah.
But I had to recognize, like, wow, God called me out. Thankfully, he was my only safe person for so long. He was
like, how dare you? I can't believe you. Right? No, I'm just kidding.
I remember one time God saying, you found me. Like, you know my heart. You know who I am. Now go find me and my people. And there was this major pullback of his presence where, like, for years it was so thick and tangible and real. I could hear him, snap of a finger. Just I could write down and fill up journal after journal after journal of what I heard God saying to me and what my time in the secret place was like. And then after this happened, it was like all of that felt like it kind of lifted. And I knew God didn't leave me. I know he never leaves me and he never forsakes me. But I knew that it was his grace and compassion for me, that he wanted me to actually grow in my ability to let down my protectors and let people in. And so it was really like, how can I see God in the people around me? And how can I look for people to meet some needs? Because for so many years, I wouldn't let anyone meet any needs because it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to go to the other side of the pendulum and start practicing letting people in and making myself open and vulnerable to either intimacy or rejection.
Yeah.
And I've experienced a lot of both since then. That was probably 9 years ago. And it's the only reason why we're married is because of that season, because I was so closed off to everything and everyone besides God in that. And so I'm really thankful for that. And I think it's beautiful when God is your main source. I think that should always be true. I don't think we should look to even your spouse to be your safe person. Like, what a gift it is. Like, you are my safe person.
Yeah.
And I feel so grateful for that. But whenever literally I was being vulnerable with Spencer yesterday, 2 days ago. And I was sharing something really vulnerable and I hadn't like fully shared how vulnerable it was. I was just kind of starting the conversation. And he looks at me and he said that I had something on my face. That was like his first response. And my pain that was underneath what I had just shared, my pain and my belief was there must be something wrong with me. And so for Spencer to share the very first response to me, and it was about something that was wrong with my face, just like hit the nail in the coffin of like, okay, we're in the car. You're not even looking at me. You're driving. Who cares about the thing on my face? Not like it mattered. It's not a big deal. It was it was the pain that I was processing through. Felt like, oh, now you're picking out something that is messed up with me right now before meeting me with love and compassion.
Totally.
And so, we both triggered because I just was like, oh, that's the first thing you're going to say to me in response to me being vulnerable with you. Great. And we needed to take some time and just kind of process through things. And
so in that moment, we couldn't be safe for each other.
That's my point.
Is because we both triggered, we both triggered back to a part of ourselves that made us not feel connected to ourselves and to God.
He felt like, well, now I just can't give you the right response. And for me, it was like, no, that response in that moment was just really painful, but that is proof of like, you are my safe person. And I'm so thankful that I can bring my vulnerability to you. But that is the perfect description that a person cannot be your source of safety. God always needs to be the main source. And sometimes in those moments, whenever you are bringing vulnerability and you feel hurt or let down, that is your indicator, oh, I need to run to Jesus and have him meet this need right now. Otherwise, it's going to be too painful and I might retreat and go into self-protection mode or blame and accusation, depending on what, some of y'all's protectors are, if I don't get this need met by God.
Yeah.
Because if I get this need met by God, then I can risk being vulnerable again.
Okay, so real quick, just wanted to take a quick second to say that if you're tired of feeling stuck in sadness, disconnect, or feeling powerless to relationship triggers.
Maybe you just feel swirly internally and you don't fully feel powerful to work through your emotions, and you really want to be more connected to yourself and to God. We really encourage you to click the link below the description.
Yeah, so we have like a full hub of all the courses we've ever created for emotional health, spiritual health. The best thing you could ever do if you have a vision for your life of who you want to be is to get help or mentorship from people that are ahead of you in some specific area. And that's in order to become the person that the loved ones in your life deserve.
In this hub called the Alive and Free Collective, we have a monthly coaching call with us, a monthly teaching and Q&A with trusted experts we love, and we have a community of believers on an emotional health journey. And like we said, all the emotional health courses we've offered, and a vault of over 50 trainings from the top emotional health leaders giving their best guidance.
It's only $47 a month, and you can learn all about that if you click the link below. And if you want to learn how to be a safe leader and coach others and start a life coaching business, you can click the link below as well in the description to learn about our program, Coach Launch. Okay, back to everything that's important. Well, I think vulnerability, because I do hear so many people are like, well, God should be your only source. And I do think it sounds really good. And I think, we can even make, an argument for that in some contexts of scripture. But Jesus also said, if you come with a gift and you have something against your brother, therefore leave your gift at the altar, go and be reconciled, like go and be reconciled to your brother, and then come bring your gift back. It's very important to Jesus and to our, like, for us to resolve things that we have in relationship with other people. And he's like, I can't do that for you. He's like, because Jesus reconciled the whole world to himself, therefore be reconciled. And we have a part to play in this relationship, in every relationship, but in our relationship with him. And we are ministers of reconciliation to the world, to our community. We get to be an experience of God's reconciliation we've received from him. So it's like, okay, I've been forgiven. I can now extend that to others. I have been seen and loved. I can now share that with others. But at the same time, like, I had a friend and he would constantly ask me like feedback and stuff about his life. And at one point I just told him, I was like, I honestly, and I love this dude, respect him a lot. He's pretty healthy in terms of like the way he governs his life and everything. But he started like asking me different questions, and I was like, man, I honestly don't feel like I'm ever going to affect you, and he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you only ever share with me what's going on in your life after you've had all this time alone with God, and then you've hit your resolve. And it's like, you're good, everything's resolved, you're totally good. So every time I talk to you, you're just good. And I'm like, that doesn't really give me any opportunities to have my love be powerful in your life. When there are obviously moments that, yes, God can love you in the secret place, all like a ton, and it's going to be very helpful and beneficial for your heart. But you're never going to get to build a history with people of getting to see that people can carry a side of God in relationship with you. You're never going to get to experience in your smallness God's love through others. And I was like, that does me a disservice as your friend. When I have a lot of love to give you, I never have an opportunity to show it because you're waiting until you fully resolved something to share it with me. I don't feel close to you. I don't even know who you are really. It's like, I just hear the resolved thing. And he was like, oh, interesting. And I was like, it kind of feels like sometimes you have to be the hero in people's lives, the one that has it all together. And I think that to me makes me feel really distant from you. And he really took it, chewed on it, and really started to share like, okay, he took opportunities like, I'm in the middle of the process, I'm going to text Spencer. So he'd text me these different things. Hey, here's something I'm processing right now. And I started feeling closer to him. Yeah. Vulnerability is this amazing tool that within safe enough relationships gives us the opportunity to see into somebody and to engage our compassion in a way that it has a landing pad. Because I can, how many times has this happened where I've had like a guy friend that's like, oh man, this happened today. And you're like, I'm sorry, man. And you just hear, that's okay. Nah, it's all good. No worries, man. you're like, oh, the love I had to give him as a brother didn't land there because he had a protector that says, I'm weak if I receive that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shut it down. How many times do we have that in relationships where we feel like, oh, he doesn't need anything from me. So guess what we get to have? A separation where there could have been connection. I think vulnerability gives opportunity in our relationships for us to be an experience of God to one another. And I think that's what makes it powerful.
Yeah.
It builds attachments, like.
Yeah, I think one thing that I have found really difficult is that I had incredibly deep relationships where I knew the person could handle my vulnerability, and we both had enough safety and love and compassion and maturity in general that when we came together, it was like, oh, we can go really deep. We can share things really candidly, and neither one of us is going to make judgments or conclusions or label the other person for gossiping or whatever it is. Because it's like, no, I know your heart. I know your intention is not to gossip. You're not sitting here telling me bad things about another person. You're sharing how something affected you, so that I could understand you and learn you and be a person who brings you compassion and comfort in a moment. And I feel a little ruined by some of those incredible relationships. What a gift and honor for those of you who have experienced this incredible relationship and you either don't have it anymore, or for me, like some of my really good relationships are long distance, and we can't have the same amount of closeness because we don't want to talk on the phone all day, every day, or we literally can't because my child will just start yelling the second that I'm on the phone.
Yes, he will.
And so I think what's been hard is I open my heart so much in a really safe relationship. And then whenever I was trying to find new relationships, when I moved somewhere else, it was like, how do I find this? Someone with totally different core values and totally different history with God, and comes from a totally different background, and maybe has or hasn't done as much counseling or therapy, or doesn't have as much self-awareness. And sometimes, we come in with desire to have this depth that other people in our life aren't ready for or don't have capacity for. And so I think a big struggle for me is feeling like those deep relationships almost ruined me, because now I'm looking for new good relationships and can't find them at the depth that I crave, and at the depth that I've experienced. It's like I've tasted and seen that it can be really, really good, and other people don't want that, or there's not the same friend chemistry, or there's not the same capacity in life, or you're in different life seasons. And some of bringing vulnerability is working through, okay, I'm going to test in little bite-sized pieces vulnerability. I'm going to bring little things to you that aren't too vulnerable and see if you can create safety, see if you are someone that wants to go there. And if and when you can't, I'm going to go to Jesus with that disappointment. And I'm not going to blame that person or villainize that person for not being able to meet that need in that way. I'm actually going to let God be my source, and then I'm going to pivot. I'm going to have emotional resilience and recognize that it's okay that that person didn't have capacity for that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the hard part, even, for a lot of our clients that have gotten really good coaching or counseling. I know I had a lot of clients that were like, man, you feel so safe to me, Sammy, and I can process through all of these things, and I feel so loved by you, and we also have fun and da-da-da-da-da, and I can't find this anywhere else. And that was the beauty of starting Alive and Free and turning it into a group coaching program. Was now you are getting to connect with other people that are going after the same thing and have very similar heart desires and value the same things, in terms of hunger for God and emotional resilience and working through past pain, so that you can bring intimacy in relationships. And that's a beautiful thing about, I feel like, this space, is that there is some common ground that you can find whenever you do join programs, of whatever kind, with people with similar interests. It's like, hopefully you can find people that have that same connection with you, but still, you still are going to face pain and disappointment. It's the nature of relationship.
And I think too, after having faced that many times at this point in relationships, like the disappointments and things like that, I feel like the more you become mature in this journey and still putting yourself out there, your narrative changes from they don't want relationship with me to they don't know how.
Yeah.
They're doing the best they know how.
Yeah.
And that can help you create a compassionate lens. For instance, when I experience from somebody that they, maybe name called or judged me or drew a conclusion over me when I shared something in confidence that was like a vulnerable thing, I'm usually not right away all the time, but pretty quickly getting to a place where I'm like, oh, they're loving me the way they love themselves. And that's a big thing. And that's a big part of,
I had to try to understand that. So I'm going to
share it more. I'm going to explain it more. So we give away the love that we give ourselves.
Yeah.
So if I am drawing conclusions over you in a mistake you made, or I'm drawing conclusions over you in a low emotion, or I'm going, I've actually seen this with our 2-year-old too, is I'll watch different people that are influencing him, and he'll be sad and they'll be like, it's okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're fine. You're okay. You're fine. And it's like, oh, you do this to yourself.
Yeah.
You make yourself be fine and okay when you're feeling really sad, because you don't know how to be sad and also know that love is accessible. Yeah. And so you rush past it.
That's a great example, and one that I see probably once a week from, strangers or friends with Wilder in particular, where it's like, oh, we actually just hold space and comfort him whenever he's in pain. And then after a little while, we might, not to distract him from his pain, but to create a light moment, we might bring something else into the moment of pain of like, oh, I'm going to hit that tree. It gave you a boo-boo, you know? And we might make something lighthearted, but we intentionally bring comfort in the middle of pain. But that is a very intentional practice we've done with ourselves.
Yeah. Well, if we show up a certain way in friendships and it feels like too much for a person, it's like, this is just too much. Like everything we do is conflict, that type of response. It's like, oh, okay, got it. So when you start actually having emotions or feelings about something, you rush yourself past it and just go, no, things just have to be okay. And that's how you treat other people in relationship too, because that's how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a part of the ways that we can learn to cultivate a community where vulnerability is safe is learning how to be vulnerable with ourselves. Like learning how to access those parts of ourselves that are actually vulnerable, feeling scared, weak, sad. I think just any type of weakness or humility, going like, man, there's something there. It's identifying what beliefs do I have over myself in those states.
Yeah.
Are they negative? Are they in agreement with the Lord? Like what are those things that are happening when I'm in those states, like in sadness? Do I feel like it's okay to be sad? Mm-hmm. Do I feel like love is available when I'm sad? Getting to ask those different questions, it's like, my family didn't know how to hold space for sadness. We just didn't know how. Or maybe there was so much grief in your home that they were like, we have to, no more of this, and so all of a sudden you were the one that got the butt end of that experience. Who knows what happened and what led to the different things that we experience. Every person's life is so nuanced. But I do think it is important to explore those things so you can recognize what are the areas where I don't know how to be vulnerable, or I don't know how to be safe for somebody who wants to bring that vulnerability or wants closeness with me.
Yeah. This might be random, but a thought that I was just having is sometimes the people in my life that feel really emotionally available, I think I notice myself having some resistance to them. Almost like you are too available or you are too interested, and it almost triggers my avoidant attachment, where I, on one hand, long for really deep, intimate, connected, vulnerable relationships. And then on the other hand, whenever it's presented to me and someone has capacity for that, I feel this resistance inside of me. And that's really good for me to recognize. Like even while Spencer was talking, I thought of a really safe person that's in my life and in my sphere that I could bring anything to. And I think that they would bring so much love, empathy, compassion. They would pray for me, remind me of truth if I needed it, just hold space if I said that was all I was needing. Like they have a lot of similar traits as things that we've cultivated that would make me feel safe. Yet I'm aware of this resistance inside of me because of my avoidant attachment style. And in different relationships, I get triggered in my attachment styles in different ways. Like for example, in most of my relationships, I'd say I'm more avoidant if I'm not intentionally working through my pain.
Sure.
But in my really intimate relationships, like with my husband and with, my best friend and my sister, I'm a little bit more of an anxious attachment where I long for more connection and I get insecure and anxious around it. I don't necessarily shut down and get avoidant. And so I trigger in a different way. And I'm wanting to bring this up, I think, because it's good for me to recognize and be aware of my attachment styles and how I'm showing up in relationships.
Yeah.
And it also helps me to see with compassion and empathy that other people do the same.
Yeah.
So for some of you that, you've tested vulnerability in relationships and you are looking for rich, deep connections, you're also kind of dancing around other people's attachment styles and their triggers in relationship.
Yeah.
And you are having to figure out, like, how does this person feel safe? And how do I create, a connection and a safety in this relationship in bite-sized pieces that feel safe for this type of personality? I think it's just recognizing how touchy relationship can be.
The deeper you go.
Yeah. Well, yes. The deeper you go.
The deeper you go, because you're hitting new barriers of safety. It's like you're hitting,
exactly.
Okay, we just crossed the threshold of the safest person, like of the safety that you've had with people up till now.
Yes.
And so now we're in a new territory of safety where it actually doesn't feel super secure for you. And so there's more triggers happening.
Yes. And a very simple illustration of that is like how deep, once you get to the ocean, how deep do you feel, like how safe do you feel going into different depths of the ocean?
It's like I feel good going up to my knees.
Some people will sit on the sand the entire time they're at the beach. They don't need to touch the water. They don't want to feel it. They don't want their feet to maybe itch from the salt. Some people feel safe going knee deep because they're like, surely there's no sharks here. Surely the tide can't take me. Some people run in and dive face first and will swim all of the way out. It's that same
Sometimes
thing.
they hit a sandbar,
Sadly, yes, that happens. But there are so many different things that can happen when you're in the ocean.
Yeah.
And there are so many different past experiences that each person has with the ocean and associations and stories that they've heard that create more hesitancy for them to want to go deep or feel safe going deep.
Yeah.
And relationship is 1,000,000 times more complex than that. And so just in that simple illustration, just recognizing different people have different capacities for different depths.
Yeah.
And you are really having to ebb and flow as you figure out relationships and as you learn how to dance with each different person.
Yeah.
And ultimately the goal is to have Jesus be your main source and go to him to meet all of those core needs, because he's the only one who can do it perfectly.
Yeah.
He's the only one who can bring full unconditional love and compassion the way your heart is designed to receive it. And when you're full of that, you have more courage to risk in relationship and test and try. Oh, I know for Spence and I, we have tried over and over and over and over and over again. And I think it has to do with the amount of healing we've done that we can continue to risk in relationship and move through disappointment and move through pain and still have resilience. Like sometimes you are risking over and over again, just hoping to find that one solid spouse or that one solid friend.
Yeah.
Where you actually have the relationship you desire. But I will say it's far and few that you can find someone that values the same things and that wants to hold space for your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the best thing that you can do is create a relationship where you are cultivating love and safety for that other person to bring vulnerability to you. And finding a relationship where there's that reciprocity, where you're not just the safe person for them, or they are the only, or they're only being safe for you. You don't want that one-sided relationship unless it's in that counseling coaching setting, but like where you guys have this mutual exchange where there's love, there's safety, there's compassion, there's no judgment, there's bringing, hard things to the conversation, hard conversations to the table is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And trying, like you both have vision for the same thing and you're willing to work through things in order to have that depth.
Yeah.
But it is So hard to find.
And how do you shift those boundaries in relationships without making a villain out of a person and just going, oh, they just can't handle that level of vulnerability?
Yeah.
I need to resolve now the pain that I have on the other side of it, and also let the person off the hook of what they don't know how to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I mean, honestly, that's a big part of... That is not said and done in like a 35 or 40 minute podcast.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if that was the end of the process. It just took that long.
We do have several podcasts, I think, about confrontation, another one on vulnerability. You guys could probably search the 100 episodes we have to find more content on that. But I think just with our limited time, we wanted to at least cover some of the base elements of vulnerability and some of how to access more of it.
And I just want to say, it's okay if this is a struggle for you. This has still been a huge struggle for us. I'm so grateful that I have my husband and my few core people that have been safe enough people for me. And it's an honor for me when I get to be that safe person for someone that I really love doing relationship with. But it is really, really hard to find. And if you struggle with feeling, loneliness and disappointment and frustration, and you feel like, man, I've been so, disappointed for so long over this, and you find yourself creating stories and narratives about people or community or the church because of your experiences, then I really want to encourage you that loneliness in your heart and that disappointment that you feel is just a sign that your heart really needs perfect love. And so run to Jesus with that pain. Run to him, let him love you, let him meet that need of feeling included and wanted and desired and enough, because only he can do it. And my goal, though I've experienced a lot of disappointment and frustration in relationships, is how can I be so convinced of God's love for me and his acceptance over me and how included I am in his family, that I am not looking to people to be that for me or to meet that need, but that I'm able to bring that love from God to the people around me.
Yeah.
And so that is I want to hold space for your pain and also encourage you to not stay there, because you are the light of the world. You are, and you are so loved by God. And there is a love that all of us are looking for that can only be found in him. And you can actually be that to someone else. And that is the point of the kingdom. That's the point of our time on earth, is to bring heaven to it and to be able to love people with his love and give them that experience and not have that need that you're looking. You know, there's so much more that we could say, but for today, that's it. We love you guys so much.
This was a fun conversation, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.
Later.